I don't know. Chief trying to join. Oh, I see. We got live chat. Peace, fam. Peace. I'm trying to get Chief up in here. So if y'all see me go out for a minute, I'm trying to get Chief on. All this is new to me, but Chief just said he wanted to talk to the people. So y'all know, here I am. Trying to see. Hold on, y'all. All right, here go Chief. All right, here we go, y'all. Here we go. Here we go.
Good evening, Raspy. How you doing, brother? Likewise, good to be seen. Good to see you as well.
Yeah, man, it's good to see your face, man. We got a lot been going on in the community, and because you doing what you're doing for your nation, and I went quiet, everybody just took all the information and just ran with it, and it seemed like we got a bunch of offspring out here just acting crazy out here, and I appreciate you um taking the initiative, being in your position to hit me up and be like, it's time for another live, because someone in your position, um you don't have to reach back for us. Like, I don't know how many people really understand what it takes to actually run a nation. And not only you have a nation, you have a confederation. So I don't think people really understand what it takes to be the president.
Mhm.
Like, because no one thinks in their mind of, I need to be the president. They think of, I'm a vote for a president,
Mhm.
but no one thinks I need to be a president. But for you and your stance, in your position, you're the president of your nation. You're the chief of your nation. So for you to still take the time out to reach back to us, you know what I'm saying? I want to thank you for that. That shows the, like we say, if you Indian, you gonna live like an Indian. That shows Indian in you.
Yeah, brother. I appreciate those good words, and it's par for the course. It's what is necessary. They say if you're in a position, quote unquote, of power, there's responsibility that comes along with that. So it's incumbent that I, being a chief, share generally, because when you're a chief, you're a chief. When you get into like the politics of it, yeah, I'm the chief of my tribe, and I think I had a conversation with someone on your page earlier today, clarifying that. But good chiefs are looking and working for the people generally, and I think where some of the things that have been problematic is people have a little bit of knowledge, but not the understanding. And they're running with the knowledge as if they have the understanding, making these claims and these statements that are just in many cases just wrong. And then on top of that, because of the trauma that comes along with being stripped of identity, not knowing history, and then coming into it, there's a certain air of arrogance that goes along with that because now I feel like I know something. So when you mix those together, a lack of understanding with an air of arrogance, it just goes a bad way all the time. And I know for me, I get into it with a lot of people because I'm coming from a cultural perspective. And they take my cultural perspective as a personal attack upon them or a lack of interest in unifying. And I think what's problematic is we've been taught to believe that in order to be unified, we have to be conglomerated. We need to be this one big thing, and then that's way we can have unity. And that's just simply not how the world operates. The United Nations is a bunch of nations, individual nations coming together for shared goals and objectives. The European Union is nations coming together for shared goals. Everything is individual nations, groups of people coming together. But our people, I'll use that term loosely, don't understand that concept, so they don't operate like that. So they get offended when I say, well, what do you mean our people? I'm a Narragansett. Are you a Narragansett? They take that as an offense, and I'm really trying to push them. No, you're not a Narragansett, but who are your people? And that goes back to basic survival instincts. Let's take it back to when Europeans arrived here. Narragansetts and Pequots were fighting. But we all gonna have a similar look here in the New England region. So I can't just be going off of what someone looks like. I need to know who they are, because you might be a Pequot, and we got issues going on. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to put myself in a position where I don't know who you are, so I come engaging with you, and we going for a walk in the woods, and all of a sudden there's a trap, and now they got the chief hemmed up. You know what I'm saying? Because he was just going off of the fact that we're all Indians, but not paying attention to that there's a Pequot, and I'm engaging with the Pequots. And then along those same lines, the more I know about who you are individually, the better I know how to interact with you, or the more I know that I don't understand about you and that there's a space that I need to have some understanding at. So for everyone that I get into it with, please don't ever take anything I say or do personally unless I'm personally talking to you. I got no issue with that. But generally, when I'm speaking, it's because I know that there are people out there that are hungry for knowledge. And I just want to encourage people not just to get the knowledge, but make sure you have the understanding. And then with all things, move in the air of humility. I think that humility has gotten me so many places that just knowledge or title doesn't. Like you said, the simple fact that we're connecting on this is because, yeah, cool, I'm a chief, but Raspy's got a platform. So I can't be like, oh, well, I'm the chief Raspy, you got to let me on your platform. Because you're going to be like, nah, I'm all set. And then the things that I want to share, they don't get shared. Why? Because I'm caught up in my ego. I'm caught up in who I think I am. And now there's no space for us to connect because of my arrogance. So I'll stop my initial comments there. This guy's asking for my attention. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we appreciate you and all that you do. And nah, people think Chief be rude, but Chief, y'all gotta understand. Um, you don't know, and you aren't free. So I'm not about to talk to someone who's where I'm trying to go as if I know how to get there already. If somebody's already telling me this person is where you're trying to be, I'm trying to be two ears, one mouth.
Yeah.
I'm trying to shut the fuck up. I'm trying to shut up and and just listen and observe, because the back and forth banter ain't gonna get me educated. Not the education that I need.
But
Everybody thinks they know everything, but nobody has accomplished nothing. And this is my hold on, Chief, let me keep
yeah.
going. This is my biggest thing with everybody out here who's pushing this information. Nobody has accomplished anything. So if you can't bring me no solid proof of something in reality in today's time, it's just a bunch of talk. That's why I never moved forward when the Moors was giving me all that information they was giving me, because I could never look at none of them and see any of them free who didn't have to look over their shoulders anytime from the police. Like that was my whole thing. Like, how do I move without having to look over my shoulder from the people trying to come get me because I didn't file some shit and the documentation isn't correct. And so now I got to deal with them. And so trying to keep people from going that route, and they have already been taught some of those things, they tend to want to go back and forth with you in the comments.
Mm-hmm.
But you achieve nothing, and the people you got your information from haven't achieved anything. Because the ultimate goal is to be free, to be able to have you and your family and y'all assets in y'all own trust and jurisdiction outside of the U.S. to where y'all own that outright. That's the ultimate goal. Forget your feelings, forget your egos. That should be every family's ultimate goal, to be in a position to control you and your family's life 360 degrees and don't have the colonizers over you and you're paying taxes to those colonizers. That's free. You're one of the only people I have met personally with that freedom. So I be wanting to go off on everybody. Like, bro, you don't know none of this. None of it. And we're trying to give it to you straight, no chaser, so you and your family don't have to chase y'all tail. Because I had to chase my tail for about 3 years before I started finding out the trust, and then I start running into you and starting to see how it goes. So they had me chasing my tail, and this is what we're trying to prevent the rest of y'all from having to do, is
Mm-hmm.
chase tail, because then that means more work y'all have to do, and then in that time, no telling who y'all lose as an elder. So
Mm-hmm.
when that dies, that library dies. And I'm mad at myself because I didn't know this earlier, and I let so many libraries pass along. Like Chief, I tell you, his thought is from his grandmother doing it, and he didn't even listen to her. Just so happened she kept the records, and when she passed, that was the thing that he decided to take up because that was something that she kept pushing on him. How many of us have that? Not many. You know what I'm saying? So it be it pisses us off when we have to go back and forth with y'all in the comments when we are trying to tell y'all directly what you need to do because we have somebody who has already accomplished
Yeah.
it. Right.
Very good, Raz. But I'm gonna bring it down even a few levels lower than that. The gentleman said I was very rude. No, that was me being responsive to someone being rude and ignorant to me. And I don't understand why people think that because I have the title chief, they can just act however they want and I'm supposed to be this. No, I go on to Raspy's page and there's someone that I've never spoken to, never had a dialogue with, telling Raspy he got to be careful who he associates himself with because they seen my comments. So yeah, you're gonna get the energy you putting out to me. I'm gonna give it right back to you like how you giving it to me. So if you thought that my comments were rude, well, what do you have to say to the individual that started making comments about me first? Nothing, because I'm the chief. Nah, put all that chief stuff to the side. You get what you give out, and that's real Indian. That's real Indian culture. What you put out is what you gonna get back. So if you come into my territory and you rude and ignorant, guess what me and the warriors gonna do when we bump into you? And I expect the same thing when I'm in your territory. So guess what's the best route so that we don't end up in a war with each other? Let's both be cordial and respectful when we in each other's territories, right? Let's just move like that so there's no unnecessary problems, so that no one has to get lippy. No one has to, and there's a few brothers lots of individuals actually who will send me a message and be like, yo, look, I didn't understand that. Could you explain this? And I hit him back like, yo, this is what the deal is. This is why. Oh, okay, because I thought this. Nah, it wasn't like that, but I can see why you thought that. So let me apologize for coming across like that, and thank you for taking the time to reach out to me. And that's real deal. But we're caught up in this, like I said, this ego. There's a lot of ego I see floating around to the point, Raz, where I find myself, like you say, debating with people about stuff that we put out. Stuff that we put out, and I'm like, you're not gonna explain that to me. What do you know what I'm saying? And so that was the last video that we put out through Fauna, and I was talking about the difference between nationality and race and status and all that. I had someone trying to debate with me about the Native American stuff, and I'm like, we was the ones who put that out there in a video years ago, explaining that it was so don't come like it. I don't know how people get there, but I'm just not the one, brother. I'm just not the one. I love to be cordial. I love to share, but don't come at me on a level and then expect to get something different from me back and then get mad when you don't. I just don't understand that.
Well, I don't know about your culture then, because we don't meet. We don't. You're not gonna come in my territory and talk to me in kind of way, and I'm gonna just talk nice to you. So maybe that's where y'all do it at, fam. But where in my parts, we don't, ain't our culture. So maybe that's maybe your tribal culture.
Yep.
And shit. Because what your tribe does as a culture don't mean my tribe does the exact same thing. Don't give me the right to go and colonize your tribe and to make your tribe start living like my tribe. That's why I be so hard on the Christianity where the whole Abrahamic faith, because it colonizes, because Islam did that to Africa a lot. You know what I'm saying? It colonizes all the indigenous ways that everyone had. Not everybody has the same ways of life. Not everybody has the same customs. And going into somebody else's lands and trying to make them obey your customs, that's colonization of me. I don't care if it's Indian on Indian, African on Indian, pale European on Indian. No matter what it is, it's still colonization of me. Every tribe has their own ways of life, their own culture, and that's where the Abrahamic faiths. That's why I be so hard on them. Because my culture, what I do in Louisiana, is not your culture in Rhode Island. And I'm not going to bring my Louisiana culture to Rhode Island and tell you, you got to live the way I live.
That's how people, I mean, just if we take it out of the Indian way, you're gonna go to someone else's hood and start acting however you. No, you're gonna peep the scene. You're gonna see what's what, who's who, and how to maneuver there. Why? So you don't get your head blown off, right? So you end up getting stabbed. So you don't get locked up. So it's the same thing. And my thing is this: if you give respect, you will get respect in return. It's that simple. Even if we disagree, we could disagree to the very last element. But if it's a respectful disagreement, then it's going to remain a respectful disagreement. And one of the things that I think people should know, particularly about my people, the concept of freedom of speech and freedom of religion, as they're known in the US today, originated in my people. If you do the history, you'll find that a gentleman named Roger Williams was the one who popularized that in the colonies. And he popularized that because he came over with the Pilgrims. He got run out of Mass Bay Colony because he was saying that they weren't living Christianity the way they were supposed to. And he got taken in by my people. And then he started to say to the Europeans, you call these people savages, but they conduct themselves in a more civilized manner than we do. They don't kill each other because they don't believe the same thing. Everyone has the right to say what's on their mind. So he got that directly from my people, but at the same token, my people were very warlike. My people were fighting with everyone when they were up here. So it's always been understood with our people that conduct yourself with a certain level of respect. Definitely say what you think, believe what you believe, but in doing that, always conduct yourself with a certain level of respect because it'll go down. We was ready for it to go down at any given time. So I carry that with me today. And to me, respect is the key thing. And I respect what you're saying, Chief G the Star, but to me, you're not gonna talk sideways to me and then expect me to just nah. And I don't think that anyone else out there realistically conducts themselves like that. Just lets people walk around talking to them any which way. And especially, like I said, with that situation where I pop up and you're talking about me, but you ain't never talked to me. It's one thing if you had a conversation with me and then at the end of the conversation with you don't like
People,
me, okay?
the internet has made people comfortable to say things online that they wouldn't say in person.
Yeah,
The internet, this whole everybody has an opinion, even though they are not educated enough. Everybody's opinions need to be heard, but the internet that made people bold to say things in a way that they wouldn't say in person.
yeah, Indigo Flamethrower, I don't know what you're talking about. And I don't know what you mean I tore someone down. What do you mean I told him he had to, I asked him what he meant by what he was saying. See, okay, so let's have this conversation, right? I want to have this conversation because this is what I mean about understanding and operating in the culture. Let's say what the Pelicans are the basketball team in Louisiana. Is that the basketball? Okay. So let's say you play for the Pelicans. You're a professional basketball player. I come up to you and I'm like, oh, you play for the Pelicans, and you're like, yeah. You're like, oh, I'm an athlete. Well, what's the first question you're gonna ask me?
About you asking me that?
Yeah, I say to you, I'm an athlete.
You say you're athlete. What you play?
Of
What you
what
play?
sport, right? All right. Now, what if what do you mean what sport? Oh, you're gonna ask me what sport, man? You acting like the white man. All right, I tell you, I play basketball. I play basketball too. What's the next question you gonna ask me?
Who you play for? Where you play?
Okay, okay. So let's take athlete and let's put Aboriginal there. Oh, I'm Aboriginal. My next question's gonna be, from where?
Yeah.
What do you mean? The white man that took everything. Oh, I'm Aboriginal. I'm from North America. Oh, from what tribe? Well, this is what I'm talking about. So this is the basic conversation I'm trying to have with people. Well, you saying you Aboriginal? Okay, from where? From okay, you Cherokee. What band? What tribe? I know Annie Salagi's. They're up in New York, New Jersey. I know Sand Hills. They're up in New York, New Jersey. I know that there's Eastern Band. I know that there's several different Cherokee groups. There's an Over the Hill. So which one are you from? If you saying that, you this. If you tell me you an athlete, what sport you play and what team you play for?
So this what a lot of people are not getting. They are thinking that once you find your ancestry, that you automatically have everything. You're connected to the tribe. You're a part of that nation. And so when you're asking somebody who say I'm Cherokee, well, from where? They don't get you're asking them to go into a deeper dialogue because you're trying to see exactly who their people are. Because you can't just say I'm a Cherokee and not be able to say which band of Cherokees you from. Because our conversation is if you from this band, I can have a conversation with you about this band. But say you from this band and I start talking about that band, then it's no, that's not us. Well, that's why I'm asking you, what Cherokee are you?
There you go, brother. Let me bring her. If you say to me you're Narragansett, I'm gonna ask you, all right, from what tribe? Because there's the Narragansett Indian tribe, there's the Northern Narragansetts, there's the Mashapogs, there's the Uskapogs, and there's the Ninigris. 5 Narragansett tribes, and each of
Uh,
them are different
Hold
families.
on, stop right here. Let me just clear this up. Everybody be telling this shit to me. I'm not with this delivery shit.
Yeah,
All this off world. It's the
I'm
delivery. Look, right now it's we trying to get free. We've been living in this motherfucking oppression, and y'all worried about somebody talking to y'all nicely and all of that stuff. My family gonna put me as chief whenever I get all the paperwork together. And if y'all think I'm changing my tone to talk to people, y'all got me completely effed
That,
up.
I think that's the ego element, Raspy. I need to speak to you. Why do I need to speak to you a certain way? What, we
Yeah,
don't know each other. I don't. I'm putting the info out. Why do I need to speak a certain way for people? And let me. I'm not speaking a certain way. I'm gonna speak the way I speak because I always talk respectfully when I give information. If people give disrespect back, I clear the disrespect up very quickly. But I'm always respectful in the conversation that I have. I'm very direct because that's the way that I have to be in the line of work that I work in and all the stuff that I do. I have to be direct because there's so many games that get played. I came up in doing community work, running a community center. So I'm dealing with politicians. I'm dealing with slick dudes from the streets that are, so I got to be direct in my conversation with people to
we
understand
just
what's going on.
many people across the spectrum, and a lot of people are coming into this information, and they coming into it newly, and they're not getting the whole thing, and it's like fire to them. So they like I love the passion behind it, but you also have to be open minded while you're going through it. You're learning this, so you're not going to know everything at all. So you're gonna have to learn this from other people. So you just can't go up in there like you know everything. And on top of that, I'm trying to narrow this down so everyone can have a shorter time period to get free. This is what all of this boils down to. I'm trying to put this as a shorter time frame for everybody to get free. I look at you and I use you as the blueprint, and I look at your time frame on what you did to get free and how long it took you, 20, a little over 20 years. I'm looking at myself from you, and I'm like, all right, I'm a little over 5, so it might take me 6 to 7 for me. So if I can cut them, the rest of the world, down to 3.5, I think we have done the community a great service. You know what I'm saying? From your grandmother to you to me, the extension that we can branch this off into the community the way we can cut their time down to getting this accomplished. I think it's something, for one, is commendable on our part. I think it's something that's of a bigger magnitude than people can even fathom, because we're going to get into some of the moves that you have made to erase some of the boundaries. As I like this, my context for it. I tell people you have started to erase the boundaries for the United States corporation. The way with the treaty that y'all set up with them, to me, that I don't know if y'all look at it the same way, but to me, that's the beginning of us starting to break that boundary to recreate Turtle Island again. I think that's one of the first big steps with you and the Kennequi. Is that how
Kinniqui.
Kennequi, the Kennequi Confederation, out of what is considered Canada. For y'all who don't know, the Kennequi Confederation out of Canada, out of what they call Canada, beat the Pope and the so-called Queen in multiple court cases to take back 12 million acres of land. So you know how we always be talking about taking the land back, repatriate, all of that. So we are looking at the blueprint for how that has happened. And Chief has signed a confederation with, I mean, a treaty with this confederation. So this is the legal blueprint. We are seeing the framework of how all of this went down and how they beat them in the court, and how we can also use that on our end here in North America to do the same, because there's an international bodies of law that they're using. And I'll let Chief go into more detail of that for y'all.
Yeah, so first and foremost, you're absolutely right. I did say that, Indigo, because there is no nation called Turtle Island. And this is what we're talking about, the culture. Culturally speaking, the indigenous nations of these lands, many of them refer to these lands as Turtle Island generally. like you're calling it North America. There's no nation called North America. This is what I'm saying. If you don't understand the culture, then you're going to be offended when I say stuff instead of looking for understanding in what I'm saying. So now that I said that, yes, Kinniqui, and this is the thing, all of this, at the end of the day, it's a legal fight that's going on. What we came to realize is that the U.S. itself is operating according to international law. It's the ignorance of the nations that has allowed them to continue to conduct themselves in the manner that they think. One of the things that I often hear is, oh, the U.S. broke all the treaties. The U.S. didn't break the treaties. When you go into the language of the treaties, and when you go into the case law where they interpret the treaties, the language in the treaties, the nations that the U.S. was forming treaties with, it says that the U.S. is going to protect them and provide for them. So, what does it mean if I have to protect you? And that's where the problem is, because protecting you might mean I need you to move off these lands over here because these white folks done kill you, and I'm gonna move you out to Oklahoma for your protection. And you agreed that I could protect you. So you got to up and move. I'm not breaking no treaty. I'm interpreting the treaty in a manner that you didn't think I would, or because you're dealing with me as Europeans, you didn't realize what I was thinking when I signed this treaty with you. But there's no breaking of the treaty that's going on. They're towing the line according to international law, and we just don't understand it. So in our mind, because they're not doing the right thing, we think they're also not doing the legal thing. And they most certainly are. So that's why in all the things that we've been doing, that's why you haven't seen any pushback like the Moors get. You ain't seen no one come and try to lock us up or pull guns on us. None of that. Because it's all legal. And there's no need to fight. There's no need to argue. They don't even want to talk to us because legally we're on point. So when we signed that treaty with the Kinniqui, the basis of that was, well, several of the fauna nations are Algonquian nations, and the Kinniqui are Algonquian nation. So therefore, because we're Algonquian, we have this prior existing relationship that we're simply reestablishing. We're not doing nothing new. US. We're not creating nothing new. We're just reconnecting with family that we haven't been connected with for a while. And we always was doing this. So why can't we do it now? And now the ball's back in the US court to explain from a legal perspective why we can't do the things that we're doing. So how do you get there? I saw someone, where do you start with your nation? Well, your nation is at its basis groups. Yeah.
Nation, I want everyone to hold on to this definition real tight,
Mhm.
because no matter what you hear from anybody outside of us, always look at the legal definition of nation and see if whatever they're telling you is going to lead you and your family to form the legal definition of a nation. If
Mhm.
it's not, you can't get a nationality. You can only get a nationality if you belong to a nation. And if whatever they're telling you doesn't lead you back to the legal definition and the criteria you need into the legal definition of nation, if it doesn't lead you back to that, it's not leading you to your nationality. I'm going to say that.
All
It's
right.
not back to your nationality.
So,
If, go ahead.
I'm gonna pull it up, but because I got a question. Well, what do you do? What's the next step after find out your nation and tribes? Well, you need to go reconnect with your nation and tribes. That's what the next step is. Because one of the things we have to keep in mind, and Raspy says, the key priorest tempore potioris jure. He who is first in time has the strongest claim in time. So we have to take that out of just our engagement with the Europeans and look at that amongst our own people as well. So let's take my people, for example. There is a Narragansett Indian tribe. However, when you look at the bloodlines of the Narragansett Indian tribe, the royal lines there tie back to the Ninnegrits. The Ninnegrits were Niantics. So when we reestablished Mashapog, we didn't go down the Niantic lines because they had already formalized as Narragansetts. We went down the Niles and Champlain lines, which are Narragansett lines. And there was no Narragansett tribe around with those bloodlines there. So therefore, there's no one before us that reestablished that could say to us, no, you got to do it this way. That's how Mashapog came around. There's another chief, his name's First Spear. His people from out of Virginia, but they're Kiskiaks. And he knows they're Kiskiaks because he was able to trace his family line back to the Yorktown Naval Base where they got ran off of so they could build a naval base there. Then he followed his family get run off the naval base to another part of Virginia, and then his grandfather bring them up here to Rhode Island because they knew there were other Indians around. So there was no Kiskiak tribe that was before him that he was saying, no, I don't want to link up with y'all. So he had to reestablish it. So the first thing you should do once you find out who your nation and your tribe is try to reconnect with your nation and your tribe. Because chances are you've got some knowledge, some expertise, some skill set that you can add to the work that they're doing that they may not have. So that should be the first thing, trying to reconnect. Now, if that's not the case, then we start looking at other elements that are going on. But it's all about reconnecting with the heritage and reconnecting with the people. So give me 1 second, Raspy, because there's a few definitions I want to go through. Um, and if they check out the YouTube video, they'll be able to see what some of the definitions are there. But let me read nation from Black's Law. It says a people or aggregation of men existing in the form of an organized jural society, inhabiting a distinct portion of the earth, speaking the same language, using the same customs, possessing historic continuity, and distinguished from other like groups by their racial origin and characteristics, and generally, but not necessarily, living under the same government and sovereignty. Now, there's a lot in there, but one of the main things that you should see is inhabiting a distinct portion of the earth. So there goes the Aboriginal nation, because there's Aboriginal people all over the world. So they're not going to be a nation. That's going to be a status, Aboriginal, of the original people. Now, we can go deeper, and this is going to come from out of Ballantyne's, but really out of American jurisprudence. What is an Indian nation? Well, an Indian nation is a large tribe of Indians or a group of affiliated tribes, as bear witness the Iroquois. So they look at confederacies really as nations because it's several different tribes coming together. So when we look at fauna is a confederacy of different tribes that have come together. So then if you have an Indian nation, they also define an Indian tribe. This is a body of Indians united in a community under one leadership or government and inhabiting a particular territory. So this is why you hear me say the Mashapog Nahigansa tribe. These are all my people that are around this Mashapog area, which is up here in the Providence area, which is a different area than where the Narragansett Indian tribes at, than where the Uskapogs are at, than where the Ninnegrits at. So we're all Narragansetts underneath that Indian nation, but my tribe is specifically the Mashapogs. Now, this should give pause to a lot of the people who are like, well, let's just come together and conglomerate. What's an Indian band? Well, an Indian band, separate from a tribe and a nation, is a company of Indians, not necessarily, though often, of the same race or tribe. So in a band, you ain't even got to be the same race. And you most certainly don't have to be the same tribe. And they're united under the same leadership in a common design. But notice, a band is not a tribe or a nation. Therefore, it's not going to have the same level of authority or legal presence that a tribe or a nation will have. So everyone can get together and form something new. And it don't matter which tribe you come from because we all the Aboriginal. All that's well and good. But in law, it's not going to go nowhere. And then let's look at this definition of an Indian chief: the leader of a tribe, the officer of an Indian nation, such as the Cherokee Nation, who discharges the duties which usually pertain to the office of governor. So by law, an Indian chief cannot belong to a band. It's got to be the tribe or the nation, because it's got to be particular peoples inhabiting a particular area of land. Now, this is all the legal definitions. I understand, once again, some of us may feel like this isn't right. It's not, but we're talking the law. So we got to put the morals and the ethics out the door. Remember, slavery was legal at one point. So that was horribly wrong, but they was legally letting it happen. So it's within these legal spaces that we have been operating to move in the capacity that we have. But back to that nation definition, a people or aggregation of men existing in the form of an organized jural society inhabiting a distinct portion of the earth.
Right there.
Yeah.
Now, organized jural society, this meaning that you and your nation gotta have laws, governments, all of that. Y'all, I mean that y'all have to be organized and y'all gotta have y'all own government. So this is why I made the post the other day. We aren't mature enough. This is why we still voting, because we aren't mature enough to govern ourselves, because majority of us don't think of our family as its own nation, and that we need our own constitution and laws and our own culture and how we should govern ourselves. Like every family has to do that. And that's what it means by organized jural society, meaning that you and your family have to create your own constitution, your own bylaws, all of that. And y'all have to abide by that. We wasn't we had nations and confederations before we got colonized over here. We wasn't lawless. We wasn't running around here like some savages. Like we had structure before we got colonized. They didn't come over here and bring us structure like they try to put into their textbooks and the propaganda.
Mm.
They didn't give us structure. They didn't give us civilization. We had this here before they even come over here. We had confederacies before they even come over here. And if you know what a confederacy is, that's a group of nations together. So how we not gonna be organized if we got single nations that then grouped up together and they came together and formed them a confederacy? How the fuck are we not organized if we already that before y'all even get here?
Mm-hmm.
They get us with. So we're just going back to doing what we was doing before we was colonized. We was already organized in the jural society. We already had hierarchies in our societies on who did what. We had all that structure going on.
And I would say, Raspy, that's you made that point you made was excellent, because that's our problem today. There's no respect for positions that anyone holds. We all operate under an American mentality where anyone can be the man. And that's a very American thing. Remember, when these Europeans came over here, the reason they wanted to revolt from the crown because they didn't want to be underneath the king. Why? Because he's the king. Ain't no other opportunity for no one else to be the king. That's the king. So we gonna create our own society over here where ain't nobody the king. Any of us can be the king. But that's not how the tribes was operating over here. We knew who the chiefs were. You knew who the war chiefs were. You knew who the Sagamores were. You knew who the great warriors were. And you worked your way up to be in a position and you respected the others who held that position. So when you actually look at case law, and it's very interesting, we're discussing this because they say in there, the Indian tribes are like wards of the U.S. They're under their protection. They look to them for their sustenance. And what's going on today? To your point, Ras, we don't govern ourselves, even in our own communities. There's no organization in our communities anymore. There's no respect for elders anymore. We don't look to the person to be the leader and support them, and then that leader does with it. Everyone's doing whatever they want for themselves. So you're going to act like that in this space and then think that if you just magically shift over to calling yourself an Indian, it's going to change? No. And once again, to the point of the law, They're watching us act like that. They watch these communities act like that, and then they say to the rest of the world, see, this is why we're still controlling their lands.
If they
They
don't know how to,
thank you. They can't get together with their family, which means they can't get together with their tribe, which means they can't confederate, which means they can't function underneath an organized hierarchy. So how are they gonna govern themselves in these lands? We
they
got
keep calling
on.
us black African Americans, and so the rest of the world is looking at us saying, if y'all keep labeling yourself as their property, we can't ever say nothing to them because you telling us that you belong to them. As long as we continue that, the rest of the world, like the old video from Chief Tano, it's never a human rights violation when they kill us dead in the street. When I went to Ferguson for 7 months, Mike Brown laid in the middle of the street for a long time before they picked Mike Brown body up. It's never a human rights violation when they kill us in the street like a dog and just leave. It's never a human rights violation, and that's because we legally signed up to be their property.
Mhm.
And I know some people have a problem with the law, but I always go back to my earlier uh, comeback to have everybody when they had a problem with the law. You use the law to get you a car, you use the law to get you a job, you use the law to get your house. Anything you got right now, the same language we're telling you, it's the same language you use to get anything you have in your life right now. What we're telling you is, let me show you the correct way to use this language for your advantage.
Mhm.
Because you're using it incorrectly the entire time you're using it, but you're instead of using it. So let me show you the correct way to use it. And most people don't know you went to school and passed your bar exam so that we have a clearer understanding of the law. You went and sacrificed after you became a chief. You went and sacrificed your time to become a lawyer to learn the law, so we knew how to dot our I's and cross our T's to use to make sure we wasn't wrong. Because there's a lot of people out here telling us to fill out certain documentations, aka authenticate your birth certificates and all of that shit there, and that has um no direct path to you becoming a nation. Remember the definition of nation. We're gonna get back to the rest of the definition of nation because we just want to go through because we want to break the whole definition down. Because like I say, this definition is important because you can't get a nationality without first having a nation. And if
Yeah.
you don't know what criteria is for anybody anything about going into a nation.
Yeah. So
You know what I'm
okay, whatever. You asked the question. So basically, we need to pull our family together, create a town city that has laws, etc., and then place everyone into a family trust and then present paperwork, etc., with tribal information. No, because first and foremost, who are your people? What tribe are you from? Where are you trying to place this town or city? If it's not in your ancestral lands, then you're in someone else's territory. So, qui prioris tempore potioris jure. Someone else has a stronger claim to that land than you do. And if you're not that people and you're doing it now, the U.S. has a stronger claim to that land than you do because the U.S. was set up before your town was set up. So there's no okay, boom, 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 and we're good. It's gonna be a different path for everyone, but there's some general principles that can be applied that everyone can look to. So, yes, first and foremost, the entire world, wherever you go, they are all operating off who their family is. There's not anywhere you go in this world, except for over here, where we don't want to be underneath the king, so anyone can be anything, and we're just gonna. That's an American thing. Anywhere else you go, they want to know who you and your people are. They want to know who you and your people are. So we should know that anyway. You should know that anyway, just to be a full living being. Secondly, once your family is together, you then have to find out who are the other families that your family is connected to and where are your people from. If
saying?
you're not connected with your people and where they're from, what are we saying?
when he say where your people from, he's saying you and your people have to relocate to the exact location that your ancestors was on before colonization.
Where you're from?
So we're going to get to the trust part, but inside of your trust, you have to put a Latin loan. Inside of the definition of nation, it has you have to be from a distinct portion of the earth.
That
So you gotta know your distinct portion of the earth in
where
order for
from?
the claim. So what the Europeans did when they come over here, they made a claim on the land, and they made a legal claim on the land, and we didn't know the law because that wasn't the language that we spoke when they come and colonized us. So they made a legal claim on the land through their legal system as they colonized us. And according to the way their system is set up, only way you can get out of that legal claim is if you make a stronger claim than they have. So your genealogy predating them, no matter if it's in America, Africa, Australia, no matter where it's at, your genealogy predating them goes back into what's called the maxim of law, which is part of the foundation of international law. And part of the international law is he who is prior in time is strongest in law, meaning that he who can prove that he is the oldest person on this particular piece of land can make the strongest claim on this piece of land, and nobody else can go to the law and make a stronger claim than them. This is why your genealogy is so important, and the exact piece of land where you and your family come from. Because in the legal definition of nation, it says usually inhabiting a distinct portion of the earth. This is where your lat and loans come in at. That's going to go inside your trust when you put constructive public notice on file on record for
Mm.
everybody in the system to know that you're making this claim, and now they have 30 days to rebut your claim. And
So wait,
going because I had a question for you. 'Cause I wrote this down. I went watch our whenever y'all made y'all constructive public notice. And I got some notes here. Who all did y'all to give notice to? I know it's the Department of Energy. I know it's the local governments, and I also remember you say it was y'all federal senators. Did y'all have to contact anybody else besides those three when y'all gave y'all
well,
constructive
we had
public
to
notice?
contact everyone we were looking to engage with. So we've had sit downs with the Social Security office. We've had sit downs with the IRS because it's on you as the nations to initiate the conversations. Once we gave notice, everything just sat. Because okay, you put this notice out there, okay. We just gonna continue like business is business until you take the next step to tell us that we can't do that. Once again, I'm not doing nothing until you show me I can't do it. So it then became incumbent upon us to be the ones to act like sovereigns and be the ones to move forward. But to take it back, so one of the other things as well that people have to understand is that certain families moved off of lands, other families stayed. So even if you get your family together, but your people are some of the ones who migrated, the families that stayed on those lands, those ancestral lands where you're from, they're gonna have a stronger claim than you because they never left there. So this is what I mean that it has to be the reconnection with the people. It can't just be I'm gonna get mine and do us because you're gonna bump into other families that are gonna be like, well, hold on a second. You and your folk left like 4 generations ago. We
And
we
we've been holding the land down and unconsciously holding it down. See, a lot of people don't know our family who never moved out the. So I'm from the South. So a lot of people don't know our family who never moved from home. And we look at them like, man, they ain't never gone nowhere. Now that we're coming into this information, they actually held down the tribe.
There you go. There you go. And it got lost in translation, but pretty much what was going on was, for those of us who are the Indian folks with the actual ties, you either gonna go out to Indian country and be an Indian out there, or if you stay here, you're gonna be a Negro, and we don't want to hear this Indian talk anymore. And when you get into it, that's what a lot of the KKK stuff was about. They was attacking not only the individuals who were of African heritage, because they didn't view them as humans, but they were also attacking the Indians because, well, you ain't supposed to be here. You're supposed to be out in Indian country.
And you said at the IRS. All right, Social Security office, census,
Yeah,
IRS,
anywhere. Anywhere that you would need to engage with. And then also beyond the federal, we had to have, and we're still having a lot of conversations on state and municipal levels, because it's all about, I think we too often we get caught up in the larger, bigger scale stuff, but most of this stuff is the local people we have to deal with. So the local police department, right? The local city councilors. If you follow my IG, a few weeks ago, we just did a Native American Heritage Month celebration at the City of Providence City Hall. So we've been developing relationships with the mayor here. Not that it's even a legal fight, but we're the Indian tribe around here. So we want to have good relations with everyone. Because like I said, once you're in position, it's not a fight anymore. It's about how you're moving forward and how you're showing everyone we don't need you to protect us. We're not underneath your protection. We will protect and provide for ourselves. What we need you all to do is respect who we are. So we are very proactive in engaging with all levels of government so that there's no question on any level about who we are. And so that eventually there's relationships that are built that now it comes down to a mutually beneficial relationship with everyone, because there's not just Narragansetts here in Providence. There's a large Taino population. There's a large Cherokees that came this way. There's also a lot of West African folks. There's just a lot of people in Providence that, as a chief's perspective, after I take care of my people, I got to make sure other people are straight as well, because if not, they're going to cause problems for my people.
Bro, what the fuck is y'all talking about in the comments?
I don't know. I'm not even reading it.
I'm just looking at this. Bro, we not talking about no books. What is
Yeah,
y'all talking?
a lot of true lies when so yeah, so I want to be, I'm speaking from the law perspective. That's why Raspy said, Dr. Palermo was actually the one who said to me, look, we got to go to law school. He's like, we can't keep winging this. We can't just keep, because we got some knowledge, but if we don't have the proper understanding, they're going to look at us as very dangerous and we'll end up somewhere we don't want to be. So he was like, let's just go to law school. And in going to law school, that's when I started to realize, oh, it's not this like conspiracy to strip. Nah, they just moving in the law and we don't know it. So we just get run right over. When I heard you say they came over with their laws, it's not really their laws, Raspy. This is international law. They just came over with the way the whole world was operating at the time,
Bro,
and we didn't know that that's the way it's done. And we still don't know that that's the way it's done. But as soon as we figure out, oh, this is the way it's done, Fauna's at the UN with our own ID cards, and I'm there as Nisu Wishawanak, and there's no problem at all. I'm having conversations with representatives from the EPA office as Nisu, because we operate incorrectly in the law. So we have to understand this system, whether we like it or not. That's not the argument anymore. Whether we think it's right or wrong, it's not the argument anymore. We have to understand this system because this is how the whole world is operating.
what questions you got, Indigo Flamethrower? What questions do you have? What questions do you got? I will. I must have missed something that was said while I was talking. I must be missing something. What questions you got?
Yeah. And see, like this, many of them up off act like they don't want to be bothered with us from the South, though. But I'm sitting here talking with Raspy, who's from the South. We got a
Yeah,
tribe. We got it. The Cape Fear band of Skorori and Wokan Indians is from North Carolina. So no, what we have an issue with, and this is what I'm very
but
vocal
you can't
about.
group every tribe because every tribe different.
Yeah,
So you can say the tribe that you probably tried to talk to in the north and name those tribes because there's so many. So we got to get out of just saying
the North.
Indian.
Yeah,
It's so many tribes. What tribe you got a problem with? Because you might have a problem with certain tribes up north, and certain tribes up north you might be cool with. So you're gonna just say, man, fuck all the tribes up north, knowing you might have some tribes up north you G with.
mm,
So you just can't say that.
yeah. So okay, whatever. So this is where the nation part comes in, right? You can't just claim the tribe or the nation has to accept you into it. It's not an individual thing. Like people come here to the US, but they're not US citizens because they made it to the US. The US has to accept them in. There's nowhere you can go on the planet and just say, "Oh, I'm from here now." So even if you have the heritage that's separate from the nationality, and this is a point that I made in the video, I would encourage everyone, if you haven't watched the video, please watch it. My brother could go and become a Mexican citizen. So now he has a nationality as both a Mexican and as both a quote unquote American. Just because he and I are blood related, that don't make me a Mexican national. I have to go in that nation and whatever their process is, go through it so that I can be that. For Mashapag, you have to fill out an application for us to demonstrate what your Narragansett heritage is. Then we're gonna look at how you've conducted yourself because, like I said, there's 5 Narragansett tribes around. So if we look at your heritage and say, "Oh, now hold on, your family is actually Uskapog," we're not gonna let you in Mashapog because you're supposed to be with Uskapog. Because the question for us now is, well, why are you trying to come up here with us if that's your family down there? See, the protection kicks in. Why you don't want to be with your family? If that's your family down there, why are you trying to be over here with us? So it's about the tribe or the nation saying, yes, we recognize you and you're one of us. So once you get the heritage, and this is where this was the longest part for me personally. It was building the relationships and respect in the community to get where we're at. When I first started, like Raspy said, my grandmother passed away. So I just started taking my godchildren over to the Rhode Island Indian Council. Fortunately, here in Providence, we have a place where the Indians go to. It's called the Rhode Island Indian Council. So I just started taking my godchildren over there. And when I got over there, a bunch of the Indians over there were like, "Yeah, we know your people. Where you been at?" I started having that kind of dialogue. "Where you been at? Your grandmother used to be over here all the time. I seen your cousin. How come you don't come around?" So that like knocked me off my feet because I was like, these people know me. And what I found is that Indians be knowing who the other Indians are. And they'll be talking like, "Yeah, he don't really like to come around the Indians." That's how Indians will be talking. So as I started to come around more, simultaneously I was running a community center and a woman came in there and I ended up just hiring her for a position. And after I hired her for the position, she says, "Okay, now that we got that out the way, let me tell you what I know about you and your family." She didn't know my family for forever. She was a part of the Northern Narragansett tribe. So she's like, are you on the rolls down there?" I said, "Nah, you know how it goes." Then she said, "Well, you need to come and be with the Northern tribe." So I was like, "All right." So now I'm getting invited in to a tribe. I didn't go up and say, "You all have to let me." I'm just trying to find my culture. And people reached out. I got into the Northern tribe. And then that same woman came to me and was like, "I'm going to nominate you to be war chief for the tribe." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "I'm going to nominate you to be war chief." Now, mind you, I'm just coming into the culture. I'm just trying to do what my grandmother said. So I told her, "Nah, I don't know any of that. I never even heard of a war chief before. I don't know enough to be nobody's chief. And she was like, look, I work with you every day. I see what you do in the community. You got what it takes to be war chief. So I'm going to nominate you. So I told her again, nah, I'm not doing it. We get to the meeting. They go through the whole business or whatever. And then it comes up at the end and she raises a hand. Are we voting for war chief tonight? So the chief's like, oh, yeah. Do we have any nominees? So I had made sure to sit way in the back in the corner. So they said, do we have any nominees? So I stayed way in the back in the corner and it was just quiet. And this woman turned around and was like, I think I see Ray's hand up. So everyone turned and looked at me. So I was like, yo, come on, man. And then the chief was like, oh, you want to be war chief? And I was like, and she was like, yeah, he wants to be war chief. So they were like, all right, well, let's take a vote. All of a sudden, I'm war chief. So I'm like, well, what on earth is happening? So now, because I'm war chief, I'm like, well, let me figure out what's going on then. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I'm not gonna make a fool of myself doing this. There's all of these different families here. All these families just made me war chief. So I start moving around with other tribes now because they hear that I'm the war chief for the Northern Narragansetts. So this is all cultural stuff now I'm being immersed in that I had no idea I was even going to be. During this time, I also get invited to stop playing on a drum and into tribal drum. The head of it was Chief Black Eagle. That's the Eastern Medicine Singers. He's a Pecasset Wampanoag. We had Pokanokets on there. We had a Pequot on there. We had a couple of Pequots. And then I had myself. I was the Narragansett representative from the Northerns. So now I'm meeting these other chiefs and these other representatives, and I'm starting to learn the culture by playing the drum. And at the same token, I'm getting a different level of learning because they also know that I'm war chief for the Northern Narragansetts, but they know I don't know anything. So they're taking me under their arm and they're teaching me and they're showing me things. Eventually, me and the chief of the Northerns, we stopped bumping heads. And he pretty much was like, I'm taking the warriors away from you. Like, he literally that showed up one tribe with me and there was no more warriors with me. So I was like, so I talked to my family and I was like, look, I don't got time to be arguing with this man. This isn't what we came here for. Let's just kind of step off from there. So I remember going to drum practice, and I remember they asked me how things were going with the tribe, and I told them, me and the family stepping away. We had issues with the chief. He took the warriors away. And there was an elder chief. He was the former war chief for the Pokanokets, Greywater. He pulled me to the side. He said, Ray, look, I know you're new to the culture. I get it. We've been working with you. He said, but once a chief, always a chief. There's no you ain't a chief no more. So if you're not a chief over at the Northerns, you still need to do what you're supposed to do, at the very least for your family. But I'm pretty sure there's some other families around that probably will want to work with you. So I was like, okay. So I just started talking to some of the other families that were around. And lo and behold, some of the other families, like, we got the same issues that you have. So if you're stepping off, we're going to come with you. And that was how Mashapog formed. It wasn't me running and saying, I'm going to get a trust with my family. It was just me trying to figure out and reconnect with my culture. And I got moved to where I was at. Yes, Raz.
I mean to cut you off. You're not going to be a word down here in this whatchamacallit. So you either gonna put what you think we lied about up in here, or I'm about to get you out there because we ain't lied about shit up in there. And Chief told y'all what to go deal with the tribe. Heard Chief explain what to do to go to the. He said, "Go meet with your tribe. You have to go talk to." You didn't hear him say none of that, or was you just looking for something for you to want to comment negatively about? I'm just curious to know. Johnny had emergencies, so he couldn't make it. He hit me
Eric
up.
Lane, that's up to the tribe. Let me put it like this. Let's say one day you chilling at your family, you had a family reunion. Someone you don't know just pops up and be like, hey, I'm a Lane too. How I get in? Sound crazy, right? It's the same thing with the tribe. The tribes are just families. They were families that were in particular areas. So how do you get in? How do you get into a family that you don't know? Probably by going around and building relations with them. I talked to a brother last week. I told him, he said, well, I reached out by email and no one responded. I said, well, Why don't you go to one of their events and just be around? Don't go and tell them about who, just be around. Spend some money with the vendors that are down there. Ask some things about the cult, like form a relationship. Never mind all the other stuff that you're trying to get to. Form the relationship first. And once the relationship is there, then you can start to talk about other things. But all of this Indian stuff is just another term for certain types of families from here. Certain families from here. That's all it is. Certain families from over here. Mashapag Narragansetts are Michael line, Nile line, Champlin line, Hazard line, Prout line, Tunstall line, um, Bland line, Prophet lines. These are all last names of families that are historically known as Narragansetts. So these are the families that are together in the Mashapag tribe. So how would you get into Mashapag? You need to be from one of these families. If you ain't from one of these families, even though you're in Narragansett, we're going to say to you, well, where's your family at and why are you not with them? So it's all just a family sort of thing that's going on. Now, you heard all those last names I mentioned, right? That's a lot of people. Right now, we're at about 400 people in the tribe. 400 people in the tribe from about 12, 13 different families.
A lot
That
of people.
And that is a hard conversation for the feds in the state to say, no, yous aren't who yous are. And that's how everything's moving forward with us. Because it's not just Watson's saying it, it's Watson's and Prophets. All of these that they look in their history book and they're like, that's them people. And they're organized. And they got a constitution they're operating underneath. And they got a tribal council that governs them. And they host their planting moon social and their thunder moon social. And they've been setting up meetings with the IRS and they're telling them all who they are. How are we going to say that? How could we get into a court of law and win an argument that these people aren't who they say they are? You can't. So now it turned into, well, fine, you guys are who you say you are. And we're like, we started off, okay, so you got to do stuff for us. And they were like, we got to do what for you? And we were like, well, what do you mean? We're like, we're the Narragansetts up here. And they were like, okay. So then it was like, okay, we got to actually be sovereign now. So we can't go and tell no one, you got to do this for us. We had to go to the Department of Health and Human Services and say, this is what the law says we're entitled to. So here's what we want you to do about it. And then they tried the, well, we don't know. We were like, no, you can. Look, here's what the law says. Here's what the policy says. This is actually the way you go about doing it. Matter of fact, we already talked to Social Security and they said we're right. So you as the state, you're supposed to do this. And they did it. So now it's like, oh, okay. So we can't come in with our handout saying, what are you supposed to do for us? We have to come in like these are actually our lands, like those are actually our dollars that you're utilizing, and say to you, this is what you're supposed to do, and this is how you're supposed to do it, and here's the law that backs up what we say. And like I said, once you're in that capacity, there's no discussion anymore. Because they don't want to get sued. No one wants to get sued. Nobody wants to get sued. Nobody wants to get sued. If they can get away with it, they'll get away with it. But if they can't, they're going to do what the law says they have to do.
And that's what they're getting away with because we don't know the law and we don't know how to apply the law. So they have us around there calling ourselves black, not organizing our families. And so we just continue to be property of the United States. We can never form a confederation because we're not thinking to get our families together. And that's what it all boils down to. Everybody getting their families together. That's the hardest part of all of this. You can get all the paperwork, you can find all the documentation you need, but getting your family to be on that sound mind that we got to govern ourselves is going to be the hardest part because so many of us in our family since 18. Everybody, you go your way, you got to get out the house. Everybody had to go fend for themselves and move on their own. So everybody had to learn life, not together as a unit. Everybody had to learn life on their own. So now you got to try to bring all of that in order to save y'all, because that's the only way you're gonna get a jurisdiction in order to have a nation, in order to be able to create a nation, to create a jurisdiction, to have a nationality. Because you can only get your nationality from belonging to a nation or state. This is why I tell y'all the definition of nationality. You have to know the legal definition of nationality, because you can, I mean, nation and nationality, but you can only get a nationality if you have a nation. You can't get a nationality no other way. And nobody else can give you membership into a nation they're not part of. So someone saying that they can give you an ID, and because they did your genealogy and seen your ancestry, someone saying that, oh, I can make you an ID and make you part of that tribe because that's where your ancestry come from. They can't do that. No one can do that for you. Only the tribe itself can give you membership into the tribe. Nobody that's not a part of that tribe can give you membership to that tribe. Only the tribe can give you membership to it. So only you and your family can create your own nation, and only y'all can give other bloodline family members membership into the nation y'all create. But
Mhm.
y'all gotta create it. Y'all gotta find out specifically where y'all were on the land
Mhm.
before colonization. Y'all need to learn the language y'all was using, find out about y'all customs y'all
Mhm.
had going on. Some people family, like I said, I'm from the South. So for us, we didn't have a lot of resources. So a few of us may have moved away, but majority of us still living where our ancestors always been, because our resources has always been low where I'm from. So most people didn't leave. And now that I'm understanding this, the people who couldn't leave actually was holding down the part of the nation definition that say that it has to be a continuity or whatever. The people in our family who never was fortunate enough to move away, they are the people now that we gonna have to, and we subconsciously they held down the fort while everybody else went out and expanded their wings and learned new things. And now it's time for everybody to bring that shit back home. So everybody who spread out, who was able to go get all the resources and learn all the new things because they moved to places that had more resources, you get to bring that back home to your family members who ain't got shit. You know what I'm saying? To your family members who ain't got shit, you get to bring that back to them because they're the ones that's part of the legal definition of what a nation is part of having that continuity on that land. So,
Yep.
like me in the South, my family's still up. My family, like most of my family, still where we always been. Never went nowhere. So that's gonna play a major part. Like I gotta go back home because my records, they didn't, as deep as I gotta go, they took that shit offline. All I could now, I gotta go. Everything for me is I gotta go home and take a couple weeks off and go deep diving because they everything else for me is in them fucking files. Nothing is online. I'm like, damn, bro, y'all just ghost everything after this. I'm like, I got something for y'all. I'm gonna take about 2, 3 weeks off and just go home and just get away from everybody and just go through all the files, go through every courthouse, every uh, record they got in all the buildings they got. Then my cousin the mayor, so I'm gonna be asking them. I know y'all got other records that's not just in for public. So
Yeah.
how many? I don't know if I want to say offices or members of your council. Like, does your council have to be a certain size, or does that all depend on the tribe? Like, um, so when they made you war chief, y'all didn't have a war chief before you? Did y'all have a deputy chief?
Yeah. So it's gonna, and that's where the culture comes in because that's going to be depending upon what your tribe's traditional organizational governance structure was. So for Narragansetts up here, typically for a lot of the northeastern tribes, there's usually at least three chiefs, and usually more than that, but at least three. You've got a principal chief, then you've got a war chief who's actually a peace chief. Their job is really to keep the peace. And then you'll have sagamore or sagamores who are like deputy chiefs. So Narragansett itself was a confederacy of different tribes. They called them villages, but each tribe would have had what they call a sagamore, the chief that's over that particular tribe. And then those sagamores would be underneath the guidance of, we had two grand sachems, sometimes up to five. So you had the principal chief or chiefs, and then you would have had deputy chiefs. So it really depends upon what your culture is. For other nations, like out in the Northern Plains, they might have a different culture that's there. So once again, this U.S. government knows all about who we are. They know all about, if you're them people, they've been following you. They done got you tracked from when your people left from out of where they're at and moved up to Chicago. And then the one who was looking like to be the chief, they dropped the drugs in the neighborhood, and now he became the gang leader, and now he's locked up. They know all of that. So they're going to look and say, that's not how your people were operating traditionally. And you got some knowledge, but not the understanding that you need. And then the efforts are going to fall flat. So it all ties back to the culture. And this is why we've been saying at Fauna for years, first your family, then reconnecting with your culture, because you have to be authentic in the things that you're doing. Um, I'm working on an Indian law memo right now, and part of it is breaking down the historical governance structure of the Narragansetts, because I'm explaining to people there was never one Narragansett tribe. It was a confederacy. Mashapog was one of those original tribes in the Confederacy. We've reestablished it. Therefore, that's why we're party to all of those colonial era treaties, because we were around back then, and we're just getting back to how things were. We're not, once again, doing anything new. We're going back to it. So I say all that to say, once you find out who your people are, you want to make that connection to get the understanding of how things are supposed to be functioning. Because as you said, Raspy, we had civilization before Europeans got here. For those who don't know, the U.S. Constitution is modeled on the form of governance that the Haudenosaunee, the Iroquois, had. They looked at them because, remember, they were coming from a a kingdom where they were underneath the king, and everyone had to do what the king said. They looked around at the Indians and they're like, well, hold on a second. There's a few different quote unquote kings. But these kings got to do what the people say, because the people, the under kings, got a voice in what they say. So if the under kings are like, nah, we don't think it's good to go to war. If the elders council said, no, you're not going to war. If the medicine man said it's not good medicine if we go to war, we're not going to war. You're not just going because this individual said we're going. It's a collective thing that's going on, because it's a collective governance structure. What the Europeans started doing up here when they saw that was, first, they started lying and forging deeds. Then they just started grabbing any Indians and saying, "Oh, well, he's the chief, and he signed this." So there was just all of this madness that was going on. That now we're able to say, no, he wasn't a chief. Who acknowledged him as a chief at that time period? Which family line was he coming down? Who gave him authority to do that? You all just can't be snatching someone up and saying that they're the chief and you recognize them. So all of it goes back to your particular culture. The Iroquois culture is going to be different from us here in the Northeast. It's going to be different. We're going to be different from down in the Southwest or in the Southeast. It all depends upon the particular culture that you're coming from and how you all did things prior to when Europeans were here. I will
That
say,
makes
everyone should, in this day and age, have their constitution in written form, because that, in legal terms, is your customary law. See, these are all international law that we're talking about. international law is how customary laws interact with one another. So, and it all came down to commerce and trade because, first of all, we're on ships back then. So if I want to dock in your ports, what are the terms for me to be able to dock in your ports and then do trade with you here? There goes international law. And then for me docking in your ports, what's the relationship if you want to come dock in my ports? And hey, you know what? Those two have a really great relationship in terms of docking in each other's ports. Why don't we go join? And there goes your international law. So all international law is how everyone's customary laws interact with one another and what we all agreed to do or to not do in the course of dealing with one another. That's why if you go over to the United Arab Emirates, totally separate set of laws over there. But there's certain things that they agreed not to do. Now, over there, right? They don't have any rights for LGBTQ community people. Over here in the US, they do. So there's the different customary laws and practices that are going on. But the one thing that they all agree to is no violation of human rights as they understand them. So all international law is how all of the different sovereigns and jurisdictions have agreed to interact with one another. And that's why in the space that we've been moving, once we formed our tribes, then once we confederated under FANA, we plugged ourselves right into international law because hold on a second. We got constitutions, we got treaties, we got a court system, we got a governance structure. How are we any different from the rest of you all? Here comes the ECOSOC status for FANA because, yeah, you all are operating like a confederacy. Therefore, we have to treat you all like a confederacy. We can't say you're wards of the U.S. We can't say that you're not organized or we can't say any of that. Therefore, we have to treat you all like you're a part of the family of nations that the world is comprised of.
What status you said they gave y'all?
ECOSOC.
Spell that.
ECOSOC. It's initials, not initials, but you know what I mean. I forget what they call it. Yeah, but we just got that, and now there's some other things we have to do. So you're gonna see some other structures popping up in Fauna within the next couple of months. One of the things that we did that was really cool, we formed what we titled the Nimuwag. Nimuwag in Narragansett means the original people. And what it is it's like a Congress for Fauna. So you have the Tusco Chiefs Council, that's the leaders of all the tribes. But then we created a Nimuwag where each tribe that's a member nation of Fauna appoints a certain amount of representatives to be in our quote unquote Congress. And then what happens is any laws or anything that the Fauna Chiefs Council is looking at, we send it to the Nimuwag first for their feedback and review of it so that they can send it back to us with their, hey, this is how what you all are thinking is actually going to impact the people that you all are leading and representing as the chiefs. And then for the ministries we've set up and that we're getting up and going, any laws or things that they want to structure, they got to send it over to the Nimuwag for feedback. So we've got, once again, an organized governing structure that's even deeper than just the chiefs. And this is being very well received. The Constitution we did is being very well received internationally because people are like, you all are organizing yourself in as sophisticated a manner as any of these European nations, as any of these colonial nations. Your structure is just as sophisticated as they are. You've got chiefs now that have gone to law school. You've got chiefs that are well educated in these European systems who, like you said, Raspy, are bringing that knowledge back to their own people now. We commend the work that you're doing. And like I said, Chief Yanaguska, here's an ECOSOC status for you all in Fauna. Now we want to see what else you're going to do. So you're going to see, especially as we roll around to the permanent forum this year, you're going to see some things pop up from Fauna's perspective, just as we continue to position ourselves. And what I'm sharing and what we've been trying to show everyone is that there is a path, but you have to follow the path. There's no chartering your own course because, in my opinion, it would have been done by now. I'm chalking all of this that we're doing up to creative, because we charted fauna in 2015, and in 2023 we're at eco stock status at the UN. I don't know how that happens. That's like 400 years of colonization kind of rolled back within an 8-year period. With all of the foolishness we were dealing with through the process, something's just been guiding us and directing us and protecting us as well. Because had we had not made the decision to go to law school, I don't quite know where I might be right now, because I know they was getting tired of me doing videos, and I know they was getting tired of me, brother. So I just got to give a lot of thanks to Creator for where He's directed us, and this is why I take the time, and Fauna in particular, we take the time to share the things that we do, because there's a hope out there. There's a way to do this. It's not, oh, the white man won't let us. That's not the case. If you're not knowledgeable and astute, if you're not organized, if you're not conducting yourself like a civilized group of body of people, no one's going to respect you no matter what you went through. We talk about our people being stripped of their culture and all that. We're not talking about some country bombing us right now, are we? None of us are getting bombed right now, are we? So we doing better than some people around the world right now. So the world don't want to hear about what happened to us and that we got switched to black. They don't want to hear that. What they want to hear is, and here's what we're doing about it. The arms are wide open. Some of us, because we caught some flack, but why are you guys linking up with SOAD, the State of the African Diaspora, and those advocates? Their arms are wide open for us, because they're like, you all know who you are. You're not doing the color thing. You all would tell us more about what happened to you. Oh, wait, there was a few weeks ago, we put the press out. There is in the works a class action lawsuit for return and restitution of cultural artifacts and lands that SOAD is leading, that they invited us to come be a part of. They said, we'll lead it. Just allow us to make the arguments for you so that it looks like a strong, so that it's not just you all over here. You've got the nations and kingdoms around the world acknowledging you for who you. So that's why we linked up with them, because we're past this black foolishness. We're past this. Now we're dealing nation to nation, and they're fully respecting of who we are. They're not telling us we're Africans. I'm a Narragansett when I link up with them, and they respect me as a chief. And I'm meeting royalty from over there. There's royal nations in South Africa that are beefing with the government of South Africa because they took their lands from them, just like the governments over here did to us. So they're listening to us like, yo, that happened to us. Thank you very much for sharing your story, because it lets me know that there's some hope. We're on that level right now. So why are we with SOAD? Because they respect us for who we are, and they're supporting the work that we do, and we're reestablishing relationships that were going on before this European stuff started.
But ain't that what everybody online crying about? How we all need to come together? Isn't that showing exactly what everybody is online crying about? Like, you then repatriated back into your pre-colonial nation. You then got other families do the same. Y'all done created a confederation, and now y'all are building ties with African nations. Isn't that what everybody's online crying about we need to be doing? Isn't that exactly what they saying that we need to be doing? So, Chief, I'm drawing a blank on it. I've been supposed to give you this name. So it's a tribe in Africa, right? They're the only tribe I have seen lean back on their genealogy and take their land back. And I want to tell you who they are, because I want you to find a way to reach out to them, because you are already in that status. And I think that if y'all and them can connect, I think that we can use what both of y'all have accomplished and put a spotlight on it for nations here and there. They're the only nation I know that went back on their genealogy and have taken their land back. Right now, they own, I think it's platinum, the mines for that, and they have already put theirs on the stock market. They like a trillion. I think they probably be like $1 trillion nation, and have no idea who they is. But it's only one African. Through all my research, I only come across one African nation that has actually leaned on their genealogy, took their land back, and put themselves in the superior status. Everybody is still going off of the Berlin Conference names and boundaries that the Europeans gave Africans. So that's why they have so much corruption going on. But it's why I'm drawing a blank right now. Probably as soon as we get off of here, the name gonna come to me and I'm gonna put it in your DM. But it's only it's one nation I found in Africa, and they even hosted a soccer event over there a few years ago, and they got so much fucking bread off it because they own the land. You know what I'm saying? They own the land, and they held a soccer event over there, and so many millions and billions of dollars came to them, and they got it, and they the only nation over there.
See, I love that because this is the other thing I want to talk about as well, right? Because I often hear, well, we're going to get the land and we're going to kick the white. And my thing is this. If you got the land, why you want to kick anyone anywhere? Just have them pay you for the use of it. All of that funding that they generate and that should be, a portion of that should be going to your nation and then continue on. We underneath our structure, our governance, but you here in our lands, do business, do commerce. Give us our cut. Don't be violating our laws, and let's get on with this. Because it doesn't need to be, like I said, once the law is in play, it's not a fight anymore. What you'll find is that these Europeans want to settle. All right, you got us. You got us. How can we work this out?
Because it goes back to business for them.
That's what it was when they originally came. How can we trade with you? This is new lands. You got furs here. Can we trade with you? And then because we didn't understand, well, let me break this down because this is part of the discussion that we've been starting up. Our people didn't even have an issue with the crown. Our people, the reason why Christianity grew here is because we didn't have an issue with the concepts of Christianity. The war started when we were like, wait a minute, you don't follow what this stuff says that you're well, hold on a second. Well, that's when the war started. And then once the war started, what we found was that the colonists here were actually violating the laws of the crown. So them taking the land from the Indians was illegal. So we still don't even really have an issue with the crown. It was the English colonists that were here that were getting greedy, that were breaking treaties. They're the ones that we really had the issue with. So once again, it's all commerce. That's all it is. But if we don't understand the law and how to protect ourselves in commerce and take it out of the Indian stuff, you get a credit card, you didn't pay attention to the interest rate on it, you go and charge a bunch of stuff up, and now you crying and complaining that you owe this amount because you didn't know, but no one told you. They don't want to hear that, right? Here come them bills. Here come them bills. It's the same mindset. Your ignorance of how this works is not our problem. And we did something to you, but you don't know how to fix it in the law. Too bad for you. But guess what? If you do know how to fix it, all right. What can we do to what? Because I don't want to go to jail. I don't want you to sue me. What can we do to make this right? And that is the capacity that everyone should really be looking for. Like you said, Raspy, get your family together, get your culture together, and then what you're doing is figuring out how to operate in commerce. And let me say this. I think that I'll take some of the blame for this. I think that I personally have perhaps let it out there too much that the federally recognized tribes are in like this really, really precarious and dubious situation. They're not. They're not. So they do have situations where they can't do certain things because the Congress says that they can't. Because once again, that's the agreements that they agreed to. But they are separate sovereigns. It's like a separate state. So they have their own governance structure. They have all of those things that people are talking about. So
They
there's
just
really no shame if your family ties back to a federally recognized tribe. There's really no shame in that because you're going to be able to access. They have these things called tribally chartered businesses. My tribe has been getting into this, but it's a business that by state and federal law is not taxable. You're supposed to be paying those taxes to the tribe. There's some businesses down in Seminole country right now. White folk out there, but they pay their taxes to the tribe. They don't pay it to the state, they pay it to the tribe. So
so it
these
goes back to your family. It takes care of your family.
there you go. And then what you'll find is most of the issues going on in federally recognized tribes are families fighting with families. Why? Because it's still the same issues going on. It's still the same issues going on. But when you understand that it's a family thing, that should explain to you everything that's happening in the hood. Why the drugs got dumped there. Why they got the men and the women fighting with each other right now. Why they gave all of these resources to single mothers. Because they need to destroy the family. Because if the family's destroyed, they don't ever have to worry about the tribe. They don't ever have to worry about the nation, the Confederacy. They don't got to worry about any of that if they keep the families in turmoil. So this is why you've heard me say and the Fauna Nation say for the past 8, 9, 10 years, your family. It's your family. I'm not saying it to throw anyone off. I'm not saying it to stunt anyone's progress. The whole world operates off of families. Those big Arab countries, who's running those countries? Families. Who's the king and the queen of England? Families. Of France. It's all these royal families of these kingdoms in Africa. Families. It's all families across the entire world. That's the way to get out of this situation. And as long as we keep up the mentality that I'm going to do it on my own, I'm going to get together with me and my peoples, and I don't need my family because, they be hating. There's no getting out of this situation because no one has to respect it. No one has to respect it.
Hey, so for a person asking what's the rough estimate, so
Man,
that's part of our goal. We're trying to cut the time down for y'all. It took Chief 20 plus years. I'm over 5. I'm a little over 5. So what we're trying, this discussion and all the information we have put out is to help everybody get an understanding of what it is that has to be accomplished to accomplish this and to try to cut the time down. I'm trying to cut his time down from 20 years to my time. I'm trying to do mine in 6 or 7 because I'm a little over 5. And I'm trying to cut y'all time down to at least half of what it took me. So that's the ultimate goal, to make it shorter for y'all to be able to do. But the hardest part is, same thing Chief just said, your family. Because your family has been so conditioned up under this pale European savage system. It takes a lot for you to reprogram your family into an Indian state of mind.
yeah. I want to ask the brother, what's the rough estimate on what it would take for you to get your family unified?
That
Let me. You know your family. How long do you think it would take for you all? Because the reason that mine is taking so long is because the family. I got family that's not involved with the tribe at all. One of my younger brothers, he's not really involved with the tribe at all because he's more off into kind of like the street life. So that's my brother, love him to death, but he got enough respect for what the tribe's doing to stay away from it because of the lifestyle that he's living. So I don't got no issue with him. You know what I'm saying? He's still my blood, and if and when he decides that, hey, I'm ready to do this, the door will be open. But he's living a different lifestyle. If it was dependent upon me getting him to come over, It might be another 40 years. You know what I'm saying? And even within that space, every chief on the council for Mashapad will tell you the same thing. Well, I've got a core group, but there's a lot of other ones who, and this is what we deal with a lot. They said they'll come around when we get some money, or they said they'll come around when and we're like, nah. So the council started passing laws that you have to be actively engaged with the tribe for at least a year to be eligible for any benefits, whether that's a tribal ID card, whether that's access to health care. If you ain't been active with this tribe for at least this amount or for these certain things for a year, you don't get none of that. Why? Because traditionally, before all this colonization stuff started, if it was time to go hunt and we was all going and hunting, and nah, I don't got the time, I'm not gonna go hunt. Well, what do you think you're getting when we come back from hunting?
You
Nothing.
ain't getting food.
You ain't getting nothing. Here's your bow and arrow. Here's your whatever. Go off because you was too busy. Well, we're getting back to that mindset. So if you're too busy to be active with the tribe, cool. But don't come around asking for nothing. And I've been holding off, holding off. We just put into the private Facebook group we have for the tribe. Here's the application for tribal ID cards. However, your application has to be approved by your clan chief. Man, listen, so many new requests to get into the tribal group. My aunt posted something in there going off because she's like, what do you mean you ain't been getting notices of the meetings? What do you mean you don't know what's going on? You ain't been asking either. So if you ain't asking, we ain't telling. So
You ain't concerned.
we still in the process of working through our family. But what we found was that when you start down this path, there's usually a core group of your own family that'll be with you. And then that's why it's so important to find the other families. Because if I can get 10 of my folks and you can get 10 of your folks and they can get 10 of their folks, well, if we got 10 clans of 10 people each, that's a tribe of 100 people. That's a discussion with your mayor, with your county, whoever, with the governor, as opposed to you and your 10 family members from this one family going and saying, where they's gonna brush you off. Yeah, all right, we hear you. We'll do so. Go hire a lawyer and sue us. You know what I'm saying? So it all comes down to the family, organizing the family. It got to start with the family because the family is the foundation for engaging in the international body of what they call the family of nations. And if you're not operating in your family, if you can't explain to people from other nations who you are, where you're from, what your culture is, if the only thing you can tell them is that the Europeans took everything from you, like, why I want to build with someone who's coming and the first thing out their mouth is, this is what these Europeans did to me. Okay, well, let me go talk to these Europeans then. Since they got everything that's yours, I want to get to your land. I can't get to it through you. Let me go deal with these Europeans because I don't know you. You sound like a victim, and I'm not here to be a victim. I'm here to do some commerce in these lands. That's a different conversation than, oh, wow, you got a confederacy? You got a court system? Oh, you're from specifically there in Providence? Oh, that's one of the deepest seaports on the East Coast. Oh, you getting ready to charter a tribal business that's doing shipping? Let's talk. Here's my business card. And once again, this ain't just African, these Europeans too, because it's all about business. It's
And
all about business.
you're not in a black status no more. So you in
No,
the status. So their perception of who you are is totally different. It ain't saying black, so they're not looking at you as he disenfranchised. He don't know nothing about his family. They say, oh, so he got a nation behind him. So we got to do business with him differently because it ain't just him that we got to deal with if anything go wrong.
there you go. And then what's beautiful is there's safety in that as well, right? Because, well, you know, why don't you have the tribe? I can't have the tribe do nothing. I got to go and bring it to the attention of the council. If you would
And
like
that,
me to bring
you know,
it to, so there's safety in that too, because it ain't just me. You can't just get rid of me and then this. 13 different families here. And then I'll flip and tell them, look, even if I wanted to do that, if I went back to this council and even suggested that, not only would I not be principal chief anymore, my family will probably remove me as clan chief. So I'm not doing that for you all. You people out your mind. So
You
there's
lose no power.
there you go. So there's safety in the being organized and being structured. And like you said, Ras, there's a level of respect that comes because these white folks know who they are. They're calling themselves white because it's beneficial here in this US. But get into a dialogue with them. Well, you know, my third great grandfather came over on the ship, and he was the seventh great grandson of, you know, the Duke of. They get into all of that once they know who you are. It's a whole. I've literally seen the shift in energy and conversation with quote unquote white folk when I start going into the history of who my family is in these lands. It starts off with that aggressive kind of cocky sort of, and then at the end of it, it's, oh, wow, thank you for sharing. You know, I've always wanted to know about the Indian history here, and I didn't know it's so in depth. And do you have any resources I can read? Like it's just a whole shift because I know who I am. You're not gonna play that game with me. You're not playing that game with me. And when they know they can't play with you, now they want to work with you. They want to work with you. How can we work this out?
Somebody asked about money. Uh, if money is not going to be, money is more to buy you time to do the research and get your family together. You need more money to structure people's time away from their jobs in order to have y'all meetings, and that's where the money part is going to come in at. It's actually just the time it takes for you and your family to come together as a cohesive unit. So money, the money, like for me, like my businesses is keeping me so busy. I can't take a 3 week off from the businesses I run. You know what I'm saying? I can't take 3 weeks off. But the minute uh this shit come in, this should be next month. Oh, once I get all this done after this nice shit come in, I'm gonna take me a break. Cause I gotta go home, I gotta go dig through some records. And I gotta have the time to dig through the records. So the money will give me the freedom to go and dig through the records and help organize my family more. But the ultimate part of it for me and for everyone is the body of all of this shit is your family, organizing your family. That's what's going to take the most time because you got to get their minds set on the whole governing y'all self and running everything y'all self and taking care. That's a whole different way of looking at life that they probably have never fathomed. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying? As y'all as a collective.
Yep.
So that's a whole different mindset you have to start putting your family on. So right now, while you're going through the process, you got to start dropping gems
Yep.
on whether it be somebody else, a post you see on social media, somebody talking about family and all that. You got to start dropping them little posts on your family and shit all around. So you start planting that seed. So as you grow and you get more information and more organized, it don't seem so far fetched to them or just some wild idea because you've been dropping gems to them.
Yep.
Because none of this without your family. Your
Yep.
family, your nation comes from your family.
Yep.
You get that nationality arises from you belonging to a nation of state, and it comes from birth or naturalization, meaning you either born into that nation or that nation accepted you into that. You
Yep.
can't get nationality no other way. Either you born into it or that nation took you in. Like
Yep.
French Montana, I always use French Montana as a example because of the Moorish shit.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Moor from Morocco. He got citizenship over here in America, in the U.S. The U.S. had to allow him in to get citizenship. He couldn't just come over here and be like, well, I've been staying there 10 years. Now I'm a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
No, he can't do that. And nobody from Morocco could give him citizenship to
Yep.
the U.S. That's the same way of me telling y'all nobody online can give y'all access with citizenship or membership to a
Yep.
tribe that they're not a member of.
Yep.
I don't care if they trade you an ID all they want. they can't give you membership inside a tribe they're not a member of. People from Morocco couldn't give French Montana citizenship in America because they are not from the USA. Only the USA could give French Montana citizenship here. And also to go off of the citizenship shit here, um, you can't get citizenship. Nobody else can give you citizenship. Authenticating your birth certificate does not give you a nationality, does not give you a nation. So, and I want to say that to y'all because I know people out there spending thousands of dollars on people you that you can authenticate your birth certificate and they do your genealogy, and because they found out you got ancestry in this nation, they'll create your ID, and now you think you good. That's not how this system functions when you read the way the system is structured for you to operate. It doesn't operate that way. That's why I tell y'all the definition of nation. Y'all need to learn that definition and keep it in y'all head for any time y'all hear somebody talking about nationality or getting free, authenticating your birth certificate, all that. The definition of nation should go back to y'all head. And it should go, y'all should go straight back to the definition of nation and be like, wait, are they talking about being organized with their own constitution, bylaws, on their own distinct piece of land, with their family, with their own customs? If they not talking about that, then why the hell am I going to authenticate my birth certificate? You not leading me back to my family just because you telling me, you're not leading me back to organizing my family. Just because you telling me that that's my ancestry, that don't mean that I'm organizing that ancestry. Cause like Chief made the example, if his brother go to Mexico and become a Mexican national, that don't make Chief a Mexican national because his brother got the same blood as him and he went to go lean on his Mexican nationality. He had to go and get accepted by the Mexicans to get that nationality. Also, people telling y'all that all you gotta do is authenticate your birth certificate, put it in a trust, and you're gonna take control of your name in small letters, and you no longer belong to the United States. Let me explain something to y'all. In order for you to expatriate and remove yourself from the United States, you have to go up to their offices in person, and they have to grant you your expatriation away from the United States because they may deem you as a national threat if they give you this expatriation. So they're going to see if you have all your dots lined up in a row for you to expatriate. And if you don't have a nation that you can repatriate to or patriate to, then you're going to become stateless, and then they're going to ragdog your ass because you're going to be below every fucking body on the planet in their eyes. You're not going to have protection from no nation, no nothing. You're going to be low. You're going to be below a black person, and we know a black person is a second-class citizen because in the census, black only people that don't go back to original people. They go back to a racial group legally. So you gotta know what you're doing. So when people be telling y'all, just fill out, authenticate your birth certificate, get a trust, and you gonna get control of your straw man, they're just telling y'all bullshit and taking y'all money.
Yep. Yeah. But authenticating your birth certificate is like doubling down that you're a U.S. citizen. Because you got the birth certificate and then you getting it authenticated that you were U.S. citizen because of the birth certificate. Like, make it extra valid that I'm a U.S. citizen. So how can you go and double down on the validity of something and then say that that makes you not that? If they're not, and Raspy's exactly correct. If they're not with their own family, don't listen to them. If they're not with their own family, do not listen to them. You can't get it through a religion. I saw you posted the video about the religion. That's a religion. That's not a state. That's not a nation. That's a religion. People who are Muslims fight with each other based upon the nations where they're from. And then within the nation, there's different sects of Islam that are fighting with each other within the nation. So your religion it's not your state or your nation. When you look at something like the Catholic Church, they formed a state. They formed a state. That's what Rome is, the capital of the Catholic state. That's why they operate the way that they do. But then they also are taking advantage of religious laws here. So they're just operating in law, taking advantage of things because they are knowledgeable about how these things operate. But a religion is not, yeah.
And we not knowledgeable. We're not knowledgeable on things because our system over here was completely different. We didn't have the system they had. They brought their system here. So I got an old video from you, and I always remember when you say this. When our ancestors always talked about them speaking with a split tongue. That's legalese that our ancestors was basically saying. They are talking to us in legalese, and we're thinking they're talking to us in layman terms. The whole time they talking to us in law and business, and we just nodding and agreeing with it or going along and don't know that we have now signed an agreement with them legally and now then binded ourselves to some shit because we didn't know the language that they were speaking to us. So when our ancestors say the Europeans talk with a forked tongue, it's because the Europeans were speaking legalese and business to us. We didn't even know the fucking language was separate to start off with to even know that they were speaking something else. So they was talking to us. We thinking it mean one thing, and legalese it means something else. So when they come to get whatever it is, it's like, nah, see, you say it so right here, and we like, we didn't know what the hell that meant, and that's how they got us. So now we becoming educated in the law, and we seeing that, oh, y'all actually structured the law to where if we ever wake up and learn how to read it and apply it, y'all messed y'all, they banked themselves in a corner by the way they actually structured the law.
There you
And
go.
they never figured we would figure out who we were, where we was from, and how to apply the law to put ourselves in a superior position.
Yes.
And that's what chiefdom has put into application and going back to school to make sure that we don't fall in none of the traps as we move forward with this.
Yes. Raspy, you're absolutely right. And once again, in order for them, in the eyes of the international community, to be able to say we have a right to do this, it had to be by the law. It had to. They dot every I and cross every T. And perfect example, we're going to protect you. Our people are okay, all right. You're going to protect our rights. Okay, yeah. Protection, it ain't what we thought it meant. Well, you moving us. Yeah, this is for your protection. How's this for us? Because these white people want these lands here, and we don't need all of this fighting going on. And, they're U.S. citizens, and we got to protect these U.S. citizens as well. So it's just better for everyone if you just move to Oklahoma. And there you go. There goes the split tongue. Lastly, can I answer? There's a couple questions here I just want to touch base on very quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
So how does a clan work from CET? So a clan is primarily particular family lines. So like I said, for my particular clan, well, which one, and which is Hawk clan, you've got Watsons in our clan. But then of course, people get married, so their last names change. But it's all about the bloodline. So how we do it is the clan chief that formalized the clan, if you're related up to a second great grandparent to them, then you're in that clan. So if we were to meet someone that came who was out in Cali, and then they came and they were like, oh, I'm related to so, oh, okay, that's your clan over there. You need to go talk to that clan chief. And then we have a stipulation in our constitution that it has to be approved by the clan chief, but if the clan chief says no, they can appeal that to the council. So, but this is all how we structure ourselves. This might not necessarily be how other people do it. This is just the way that we do it here. So once again, it's going to go back to your culture. How do clan systems work in your culture? And my good friend War Turtle, his people at Sand Hill, he talks about this a lot, that there are certain traditional ways that tribes follow, that if you understand it, then you can access and make reconnections with the clan. But if you don't, then you're not going to. And some clans go back thousands of years based upon your family lines. I'm getting a lot of respect recently because Turtle's been making connections with a lot of the Lenape families out in the Oklahoma area because they realized I'm a Niles. And that is a very prominent name amongst the Narragansetts that I go right back. They went right online to Ancestry and looked at my, oh, he goes right back to him. Oh, his great great grandfather was one of the ones that went out to Brotherton. Oh, okay. So automatically, simply because of who my bloodlines are, the clan system is kicking in, and oh, you're such and such. Okay, your people are this, that, and the other. So once again, it's gonna go back to your particular culture and how y'all do things there. Someone asked, do we have a list of people y'all have worked with that have a list of genealogical resources for the pre-colonial area of the East Coast? Okay, whatever. Which area of the East Coast are you talking about? Because there are thousands of tribes up and down this East Coast. So once again, it's going to go back to where your family was and who your family is. A lot of us, you have to understand, most of us got these English last names from the sort of people we were indentured with as Indians, or where we were at, that we took on these specific last names. So for my people, Watson, there was a Watson plantation that Narragansetts got indentured to after the King Philip's War. The Michael line, they down on the reservation because they were never indentured like that. The Champlins were on, so I can trace all of my last names back to where my people were at based upon the history. And then in order to be considered civilized, we had to Christianize, which means we had to let go of our traditional names and take on these English names. So for us, our last names show us directly where our people were at and what happened to them. And you're going to find that in most of the East Coast that was dealing with the colonial era. And I would say most of the families that wherever they were at, whoever they dealt with, these colonial powers, that was what was happening to them. So it's not going to be a list of genealogical resources for the East Coast. It's going to be, where were your people at? Which nation was there? And which family line are you? And does that family line tie into the nation that was there? Or do you need to follow it further than that? For Raspy's example, his people always been in Louisiana. So there's not going to be much need for him to go chasing genealogical records all across these different places. He's just got to dig into the records there. Others, a lot of folks move from down south up to Chicago. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, the Niles line, it's big out in Brotherton, but they can trace it back to New York and then to Rhode Island. And then when they get to Rhode Island, oh, these people are still Niles. So we're making connections through these last names, which is why it's even more insane when they like these religious groups start telling you change your name, because then, well, how are you going to chase back where your people was at and what happened to them if you're not following by the last names? Because that's what the records are all in. So yeah, it's going to go more by the exact space and what your last name is and what tribe was in that area. And then how do you handle a situation where both sides of your family are from two different tribes? Brother, I got Pokanoket blood, I got Pequot blood, I got Mohegan blood, I got Natchez blood out of Mississippi because my grandfather's people was down that way. His mother's from down that way. But I'm a Narragansett, so I honor all of them. But it's the same thing. Like, you got family that came from Massachusetts, that came from Chicago, that came from Nebraska, but you in New York right now, so you're a New Yorker. So you choose what tribe you are, but you acknowledge all of your heritages.
Yeah, that's up to you. Which one of your nations? Nobody can tell you which part of your bloodline you can go into. That's your bloodline. No,
Yeah.
and the American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People says that you can belong to multiple
Yeah.
nations. It's
Absolutely.
just that it's on the nation
To
to
let you.
allow in, and you need to also let the nation know that you're also a member of this other tribe,
Yes.
because it don't ever want to look like, say, you got two different tribe bloodlines and then you a member of both, but they don't know, and there's some beef going on between them. They may look at you as a traitor for one or the other
Yep.
because you never disclosed that information that you was a member of both sides.
It's
So you know what I'm saying? Just make sure that you keep the communication open with the tribe so they know what's going on, so you never put yourself into no sticky situations.
Yep. Yep. It just Be honest, be upfront, and then you get in other situations too. Like for us, we want to know because if you're getting certain resources or supports from the other tribe, well, all right, cool, you good then. So we're gonna take care of some other people over here because you good. So all of those sorts of things come into play. But yeah, it's up to you how you want to identify, and then it's up to which nations are willing to accept you and say that you're one of their own. And like I said, some families you might find you one of your lines is like, oh, you're one of them. Oh, nah. Do you know what your great grandfather? And you might find a whole family history that you didn't know about that explains why you're at where you're at right now. So, yeah, it's just it comes down to the family and it comes down to the nation acknowledging that family connection and saying, yes, you're one of us, the way it's always been, the way it has always been. That's just the way that it operates on planet Earth once we get out of this colonial system that we've been underneath.
Somebody said, "Oh, the American Declaration for on the Rights of Indigenous People. It's called ADRIP, ADRIP.
Hey,
American."
Raspy, now peep this. More legalese. There's a difference between people and peoples with an S.
Ah,
And that's it's the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples with an S. The American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples with an S.
now why do they? What's the difference between the S and not the S?
The people, because I just so we did a conference. I want to say early October. The YouTube links, I sent them over to you, Raspy, if you ain't seen them yet. But the Center for Indigenous Peoples' Rights did a law conference on repatriation and reconnection. I forget what the terms were.
I ain't see that one. Please send me
Okay,
that.
there was a lawyer. His name's Andy Reid, I think, but he's the one. If everyone's not up on this, the Onondaga just got a case pulled into the Inter-American Commission for Human Rights above they got it out of U.S. jurisdiction now. The way the law goes, you have to exhaust all options in the U.S. jurisdiction before you can kick it up international. And their argument was this argument that our title was extinguished because you had the land for too long. It's not legitimate under international law. And the commission said, yeah, you're right. That's U.S. stuff, but under international law, you can't make that argument. Like you all are a separate nation. So he's the lawyer who has been working on the case for like 15 years that just got it up there. And he broke it down. And I'm not going to get it right. I'll send the links over. But basically, the S connects you with that jural status, the groups of peoples. The people is more like the corporation, the person kind of thing. But the S is what
The
connects.
families.
There you go.
Yeah, I got when I said it in my head, I said peoples. We the. I said I figured it was something like that. I
Yeah.
figured that.
And once again,
Uh,
legalese, we don't know though. So we're the people. We're the original people. And for those who know, they're like, you're right. You're the people. Not the peoples, you the people.
and just that apostrophe S shows you it's a whole different definition. There go that forked tongue. Somebody said the difference between American Indian and Native American.
Status.
So yes, so status is your political, what is your political
Your position
relationship?
in society, your position in that nation, your status.
Yeah, your position in that nation. So a Native American belongs to the United States. So your position up under the United States is going to be the status of a Native American. It
Mm-hmm.
still means you belong to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
American Indian is going to be in their own jurisdiction, belonging to their own tribal nation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all American Indians are Native Americans because they
Mm-hmm.
get the dual citizenship with the
Yes.
Act, but all Native Americans are not American Indians.
There you go. There you go.
I'm taking notes, Chief. I'm watching. I'm studying. I'm watching you.
You
I'm
got it,
watching y'all,
Raspy,
bro.
brother.
Watching y'all.
You got it. And that's the thing too. Once again, everything that they tailored according to the law. So anyone telling you relinquish your US citizenship is crazy. People is drowning in rivers trying to get over here to get US citizenship, and you got people telling you get rid of it. No, you need to get back with your tribe so that the separation in jurisdiction kicks in by US law. And how do I know this is the case? Once again, 8 USC 1401B, that's the codification of the Snyder Act. It says all Indians are US citizens if they're born within the territorial limitations of the United States, so long as it doesn't interfere with their rights to tribal property. Property, that's commerce right there. So that should explain to you where the trust kicks in. Well, where's your tribal property? And like I said, it's not an argument for us anymore because anything that's in my tribal trust is our tribal property. So when we repatriate it to our trust. Now, Nisu Wishawanag only exists or was originated in the jurisdiction of the trust. So there's no argument with the state of Rhode Island or the United States government that when I'm operating under Nisu, I'm operating in tribal property status because where's Nisu in your system? There's no birth certificate that says Nisu. There's no social security card that says Nisu. My tribal ID says Nisu, and that was created by my tribe. So how is that? And then it becomes a very clear-cut relationship. There's no more argument anymore. Matter of fact, we got to the point when I'm driving the car, we had the car registered to the tribal trust, so it's got license plates on it, but when they type in the license plate, the trust owns it. And then I'm not only pulling out my tribal driver's license, I'm pulling out my Rhode Island driver's license. Because, hey, Mr. Officer, I want to make sure that you can identify me. So, you know, I'm not playing no games. I'm not trying to hide nothing. I'm not running from the law or nothing. I'm just an Indian in my tribal property status. I had them pulling on blue lights, and I don't know what that means, but I don't get the red and blue lights anymore. I just get the blue lights. And then, honestly, Raspy, I ain't been pulled over in about a year and a half, 2 years. They just don't pull me over. One of my Sagamore, he got pulled over driving his car. They said, well, we need the license. And he said, well, here. I'm going to give you this Rhode Island license, but I'm going to also give you my tribal ID as well so you know who I am. The officer's looking like, he's like, yeah, go run it. They came back a few minutes later. Well, you know, you were speeding, but just I'm not gonna give you a ticket. Just slow down. Just so he came and told me that. And I was like, your chief. So once again, and when you see the Moors arguing and you're doing something wrong if you start arguing. You're doing something wrong if you start arguing. If you're doing things correctly, the system it calibrates itself accordingly. Because once again, this officer's now on notice that he's dealing with an Indian who's in a proper status. And was there a harm here? No. Do I want to get sued by this Indian or this Indian's tribe? No. So I'm gonna tell you what,
Go
Mr.
about your business.
Kilrain. Thank you, Mr. Kilrain. I'm Officer such and such. Here's my card. I'm not going to give you a ticket. And I'll tell you what, if you've got any issues with anyone here in this town, reach out to me directly and I'll be happy to address it for you. This is the type of relation. I told people, I was like, man, is this kind of what white people feel like when they're, you know what I'm saying, Ras? Like, I'm like, yo, is this what white people feel like? Like they got a good relationship with law enforcement? Like they might actually be here to
To
protect them.
help.
They're going to be, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a weird space to be in.
Very, 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 very. Yeah, bro. So we gonna wind this down, bro. I think that we didn't gave y'all everything that y'all needed. I just had to. This was just the Department of Energy thing. That was the only question I had never asked you
Oh,
since
yeah.
the the last live we did, and that's
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
uh that I that's just something that I wanted to touch on, that part right there. to
Yeah.
let them that that's what they had to do, because I know a lot of people be asking, um, so what I gotta do when I so what I do once I get my trust and all that. Like you gotta put it a constructive public notice to where you put it out in public for everybody to see, and you give it to all of the legal offices that your tribe will be doing business with in the United States government, from local to state to federal,
Yep.
all the way up in that constructive public notice to all of them. Now, according to their law, remember I told y'all, because they structured their law the way they did, they backed themselves into a corner. So, according to their law, they have 30 days to rebut whatever it is you put on the record. So, if you put on the record, uh, you done got your family together. Y'all done drew up y'all constitution. Y'all done found out exactly where y'all was. Y'all done put y'all Latin loans, all that up in there. Y'all filed it. They got 30 days to put something else on the record to be stronger than what y'all put on the record. If not, what y'all put on the record now stands as a fact of truth in the commercial system, and now y'all able to use that to go forward, building y'all commercial enterprises for y'all nation to grow. Because just because you know your ancestry, and just because you repatriate back into your pre-colonial nation, your nation still has to grow and thrive and survive. Like, it's people think it just because you figured out that you're Indian and you know you can get your shit back, that is just gonna be, oh, I'm just gonna take my land back and everything just gonna be peachy cream. No, in any business, you still gotta run the business. The business not gonna be successful just because you open it up and start it. That's not how a successful business becomes successful. You have to nurture it and invest into it and all of that. And that's the same thing with your nation, which is your family. In order for your family, your nation to be strong, become strong and powerful, you're gonna have to invest in it. You're gonna have to nurture it. You're gonna have to do everything you have to do in order for your family to become the powerhouse that it should be. And that's the way everyone should be thinking. All right, so whatever it takes to get me and my family together and get us on the level we need to be in, that's what fucking type of time I'm on.
Yep. And there's no sense in focusing on anything else if you ain't got your family. Because if you don't got your family, it don't matter what you're saying, it's not gonna be respected. It's just simply not gonna be respected. As a matter of fact, you're gonna put yourself into a more dangerous position for yourself, because once again, you know something now, and you told them you know something. See, when they think you don't know anything, they leave you alone. But you notice those Moors and all those sovereigns, and this is what the crazy part is, the stuff that a lot of them are saying could potentially be accurate if they were Indians saying it. But they're not. And that's one of the real issues I have with the sovereigns and the Moors, because you're really talking about things that apply to the Indians, but you're trying to make the Indians you, or you're trying to recruit the Indians to do what you're doing. So to me, you almost become like an enemy to us, because that's the same thing that was going on originally. You're trying to usurp our position here. And the last thing I'll say, along with the family, is there's no, we have to, America has taught us very well to think in an individual mindset. I'ma do me. I don't like that, so I don't have to, or I'm not gonna. And that ain't how it goes. There's no skipping steps. There's no fast forwarding, because everyone else in the world been operating like this, and no one's gonna make an exception for you as an individual because you don't feel like you should have to. So when you get into the culture, and this is a generic understanding that most of the indigenous cultures have, 7 generations. We are here today because the 7 generations before us put in the work and the time thinking about us here today. Therefore, our job is to think, what do I need to do now so that 7 generations from now, they're achieving the things that I set up now? And I have a good friend, I don't know, I think it was Japan. He was talking to someone, and they were talking, they said, when you think long term, what's long term for you? And he said, I don't know. They was like, if you had a long term plan, what do you think? He said, I don't know, maybe And they were like, what, 20 years? He's like, yeah, 20 is long. He said, you know, in our culture, when they think long-term plan, they think 500 years. And he said he was like 500 years. It was like, yeah, we don't even expect that when we start the plan, we're going to be around to finish it. But we start the plan and we put the things in place, and then we groom and grow our family to understand this is the plan. Here is what is required of you during your time. This is why you need to raise your children correctly, because they need to carry on the plan and then be able to raise their children correctly. So within that whole conversation, nowhere did you hear anyone talk about me, mine, what I'm going to do. I am starting something that I know I'm not going to finish, and I need to think about those who are coming after me and what I need to do to set them up, because if I don't, this plan that I'm starting now will never finish. That's how we
Yeah.
all need to be thinking now. Even if your family don't get together, even if it takes you 30, 40 years, are you setting it up so that your great great grandchildren have it? Because that's where my mind's at. I got children now. I'm thinking, okay, when their kids have kids, where should the tribe be at? What do I need to do now? So now all of my conversations with my children, because I know we didn't have it growing up, is don't forget you're in Narragansett. You have to be at these drum culture classes because this is your culture. You need to learn your language. Why? Because you're not a Rhode Islander. You're in Narragansett for Mashapog. We share. So these are all the conversations I'm having with my little people so that they grow up that this is second nature. This is what they know. And then when they get, I'm already having conversations, someone, what if you're chief one day? I'm chief, but I'm going to get old. What if you're chief? What if the council? So he knows that there's a council, and he knows that his dad's on the council and he's the chief, and that's a potential for him. How much different is that than, well, maybe you can play ball, or maybe you can get a scholarship, or a completely different wavelength. And I want to encourage you all to think like this. Dad's also a lawyer doing Indian law stuff. So now my convo with him is, well, yeah, son, outside of the Indian stuff, yeah, you could get a scholarship to play football or basketball, but after you get older or if you get injured, what do you have to fall back on? Laws are great. These are the conversations I'm having with my little people, and I want to encourage you all to do the same. And if you can, if you have the interest and the ability, go to law school. Listen, everything that everyone is doing, you can do as a lawyer. You can start a business. You can you can consult. Everything that everyone's doing, you can do as a lawyer, but you will have the legal expertise and knowledge to be able to see the problems that your family and your tribe is going to face and help them navigate it. So if you can't do it, encourage your children to do it. This is what we need to be doing. When we talk about what our people need to be doing, we need to be encouraging them to be thinking about the law, and we need to be encouraging them to be thinking about their future generations beyond them and what role they play in that, because that's how the rest of the world is operating. That's how we were operating before this colonial stuff happened. And that's most certainly how this European colonial system is operating. They keep us in the place we're at because they're thinking about their grandchildren's grandchildren and how they don't want to lose what they got. They try and pass it down to them. And you know what? I ain't mad at them, because now that I got the knowledge, there's limitations to that. But we can do some business, but you ain't going to be eating in my lands and I'm not eating too. That ain't happening no more. Hey, so Raspy Katapatush, brother, thank you as always, man. Always appreciate the opportunity. And
I
likewise,
love y'all,
brother.
man.
In our language, we say Komash. That means I love you. In Canupium, you're welcome. And peace Kanash, man. Until we connect again at the next time. Hope to see y'all soon.
Peace, good night.